They don't want me to get into details. To keep some people's images good.
Right now they're on a pretty hard struggle, and I think everybody, a lot of people figured when Kyle Busch went to drive there that was going to be the automatic turnaround.
Never really got surprised by anything really. I've had a lot of fun, and it just feels like business as usual.
You never know when you're just going to have an off weekend.
I've kind of gotten the ability to have the platform that I want, and it is my platform, and I can speak to whatever I feel like talking about.
We were in the mix, and it makes it a lot more fun when you're in the mix than you are just struggling and trying to figure out what direction to go.
Yeah, it's tough, and sorry for being bouncy, the roads here.
It's like if you have, the all-you-can-eat buffet every single day of the week, people are going to get tired of it, right? So if it's a special thing, I think people get more excited for it.
Hi, Bo.
Raise your hand up so she can see it. There you go.
Truthfully, even as a company, I think it was, very head-scratching why at the beginning all four of us just went instantly straight to the back. We just really struggled.
Welcome onto the backstretch. I am News 5's Heather Williams, and we have certainly had a newsy week in the world of NASCAR. A lot of stuff going on, and full disclosure, I had my chat with Chris earlier this week because as you can see, I'm not in Bristol. I'm on the road this week. I'm actually in Nashville for the race on Sunday. So we are going to talk about, or I am going to talk about the news that broke later in the week about the little kerfuffle or scuffle or whatever between Aric Almirola and Bubba Wallace. But I'm going to do that in my final thought. As for what's going on in this week's backstretch, we're going to talk about Christopher Bell. Is he the man now? He won this past week at New Hampshire. He now has 3 wins, joining Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and William Byron in that category. We're also going to talk about the big announcement at Joe Gibbs Racing, the addition, speaking of Christopher Bell, the addition of Chase Briscoe officially to the Joe Gibbs Racing stable. And then we're also going to talk about changes at RCR at the top with Andy Petrie announcing his retirement. Our guest this week is Carson Hocevar, midway through his rookie season at Spire Motorsports. We'll talk about how his rookie season has gone, how running a few races for last year at Spire helped him, and also about how he connects with the fans I think he's one of those guys that's really open with fans in his social media and in his persona. He's really entertaining at the track, and it really connects with fans. So why he feels that's important, and why he does that, why he's more open, I think, than some of the other drivers in the garage area. So let's get it going. Joining us now is our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who also happens to be the crew chief of the number 75 Food Country Truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. Chris, let's start with this. Christopher Bell won his 3rd race of the season last weekend at New Hampshire. There are now 4 drivers with 3 wins. Which one do you think is the favorite right now?
Wow, that's a tough question. If I was forced to make a pick, I think I'd probably go with Kyle Larson, but I'm not sure about that. Bell has shown, a lot of strength here, and that's, I don't know. It'd be hard to say right now. I think it's still too early in the season to pick like a front runner horse, but if I was, simply because Larson seems to be just the most versatile driver in the NASCAR Cup Series and maybe in the world, I think that will be a big advantage when it comes to the playoffs and you're going to different racetracks each week, and then it comes down to the end and you go to Phoenix, and it's just kind of a new ball game for everybody. One race, kind of winner takes all, or at least the guy that finishes ahead of the other 3 that's in the final 4. So I don't know. I would have to say right now my pick by a small margin, maybe by a nose, would be Kyle Larson. But man, it's pretty early to make a guaranteed bet here.
Chase Briscoe was officially announced as new driver at Joe Gibbs Racing in the 19 car. What do you think Chase will do with his new ride?
I think Chase Briscoe will be a good fit for that team and that company. He has got now the experience. He's been there long enough. He knows the ropes. I think he's a very calm individual who has a competitive fire. He's a true bone deep racer. Come up racing sort of kind of in the Midwest, dirt sprint cars and stuff like that. He's not immune to speed, and he's already shown, like even on road racing, he's been, which is not his background, he's been very competitive at a lot of road races, so he's very versatile. I think he will fit well into that mix, and I think it's a great opportunity for Chase. He's a good man, I think, a good young man. I think he's very deserving of this. I think driving for Coach Gibbs and that company, the mentality there, the whole outlook, the way they approach things, I think Chase will fall right in, and I think it will be good for Chase in his development on forward as he becomes a veteran Cup Series driver. Wouldn't surprise me if he's there for a long time and has good success.
Andrew Petrie officially announcing his retirement from RCR. What is his place in the sport, and do you think some fresh faces will maybe re-energize a struggling RCR organization?
As far as Andy goes, I worked for Andy for about 3.5 years on his Cup team, and at that time it was a nationwide series, which is now an Xfinity series. I have a ton of respect for him. He was one of the most intense, competitive people I've ever been around in any setting. When I went to work for him in 1999, I had been already in Busch Series racing. At that time, that's what it was called, for most of my life, and had been a part of some success and so on locally here with Ed Whitaker Racing and right here at Henderson Racing as well. But when I went to work for Andy, and especially when I went on the Cup team, the 33 Cup team in 2001, it was like it kind of changed the world. You know, his outlook and his approach to racing and the competitive fire that he had really, it stepped up my game. I mean, it changed me personally, and it helped me see, like, okay, this is what it takes to be successful in Cup Series racing. And as time went on, it's the same attitude in Xfinity Series and now in Truck Series racing, and then further down, even that type of approach and attitude, I think, goes now to even late model racing on a local level. I think it's much more detail oriented. I think there's an approach, a mindset of like, okay, nothing is going to be good enough. We're not going to stop at any measure, at any boundary to say, okay, that's all we can do. We're always going to be looking for something more, something better, and something more complete. He embedded that with me. Andy's done a lot in his career, if you look at it. And to me personally, I think he's maybe the most underrated crew chief out there. Of the names that you hear all the time about guys need to be in the Hall of Fame and guys need this recognition and that recognition and these people accomplished this and accomplished that. I think Andy's name and his career, his success, I think it ranks right up there at the very top level personally. As for Richard Childress Racing, I'm not really sure how to say what is going to turn that team around. I don't know. Right now they're on a pretty hard struggle, and I think everybody, a lot of people figured when Kyle Busch went to drive there that was going to be the automatic turnaround, that he was going to kind of sort of per se carry him on his shoulders for a while and they would automatically get better and so on. And this year, a lot of bad luck involved, a lot of bad luck, but it's been kind of a disaster. And I don't know what I think there's going to have to be a culture change there, outside looking in. And I've got a lot of friends that work there, very talented, very experienced, very knowledgeable people that I know are good people. But I don't know whether I don't know how that's going to happen. I think there's people there that are very capable. I know Keith Rodden is one name that I'm aware of, and know Keith from the Petrie days. That is a very intelligent young man, and he's very capable. So I know he's stepping into he's going to be the interim competition director. I believe I'm correct on that, is what I read. He's very sharp. So if they can give him some of the controls, and things may go up. So anyway, we'll see.
NASCAR heads to the track in Nashville. Well, actually in, I think, Gladeville, the Nashville Super Speedway. What's the key to getting around that concrete jungle?
Nashville's a tough place. I'm just going to be quite frank with you, and it doesn't come just from me. It's just the people I talk to, other crew chiefs, drivers. It's a concrete racetrack. It has a good amount of banking in both corners. It's a tri-oval on the front straightaway. Typical layout you'll see. The track itself is a little, what I call, choppy, bumpy in the corners. It's not got big elevation changes, like say a Dover or what Bristol used to be, or some of the other places. It's not like Charlotte is really rough because of what the racetrack is built on. It's basically built on a landfill, and it has big dips and bumps and so on. But Nashville's kind of a choppy, bumpy, and the drivers kind of complain about that. It's hard to get grip. Now they use I think it's resin. I call it grip spray, somewhat on the racetrack as a regular habit. I was actually last night watching last year's truck race, and the further it went, the groove widened out. It was two wide racing, fairly easy. Sometimes 3 wide racing. I think as the weekend goes on, the Xfinity and Cup race, I think the groove will widen out even more. It's going to be very hot, which should play into the hands of the tires laying rubber on the racetrack and the racetrack darkening up. So that kind of changes the balance as you go along in the race. And you got to stay ahead of that, and that's tough. And I think a key there is like the preparation that all the teams make before you go, trying to predict, okay, what's going to happen in the first third of the race, the second third of the race, the last part of the race as we go on, and even practice and qualifying, so on and so forth. As it's going to be hot, the track's going to change, and you're going to have to keep up with it. And also the driver's communication with his crew chief, his race engineers, on like what's happening here, and not getting frustrated. It's very easy to do that. I think the guys that can do that can communicate very well, and can find the ways to kind of sort of get ahead of the racetrack if possible, or at least keep up with the racetrack and how they adjust their cars or trucks. I think it's going to be very key to whoever will have the most success and take the checkered flag.
All right. First of all, Carson, thanks for joining us today. I guess everybody keeps talking about Nashville's kind of the midway point of the full season. We've already hit the midway point of the regular season, but halfway through your rookie season, how do you think your transition to the Cup Series has gone?
I thought it's gone well. My transition, right? I felt comfortable in this car. We put together good runs and felt like we've had speed quite a lot of times. So I have enjoyed it, and I felt comfortable this whole time, and feel like we've grown as a race team and as a team in general to get us to this point that our cars are pretty consistent and pretty consistent towards the front these last couple weeks, which has been even more fun.
I know Spire, you worked with them a little bit last year, so you got kind of a head start. This year, it's been like an explosion, right, of teams and people and all sorts of stuff. What's that been like as a whole for your organization, to make the jump from being kind of, couple years ago, they were just this little team with just Corey out putting around. Now they're this huge conglomeration. So what's it been like being a part of that?
Yeah, it's been fun to be a part of, and it's been exciting to see everything. This year they still don't have everything they want to have. Really, they're taking this year to do everything behind the scenes to really set us up nice for next year and the year after that, right? And it's just a whole big process. And Jeff Dickerson and everybody here on management side has a really good vision and plan to achieve everything they want. It's just not as easy as get everything all at once. And I think this off season was probably the most they've done in one single swing, I guess. But it's been fun to be a part of, and been fun to help build this team and kind of come in and get this built kind of around me and with me, and everything has been a lot of fun.
Last week at Martin's, well, actually, let me ask you one more question about your rookie season before I get to last week's race. Is there anything that surprised you? I mean, I know you got a jump start last year and you ran several cup races, so you kind of knew what this was, but doing it week in, week out, is there anything that surprised you this year?
No, not really. I got a head start on the cup side. That I never really got surprised by anything really. I've had a lot of fun, and it just feels like business as usual. Everything's kind of what I kind of expect per se. So that's been made the transition obviously a lot easier.
All right, so I want to talk about running in the wet or the damp or whatever last week. What was that experience like for you? It was fun for us to watch, but I know what's fun for the fans isn't always fun for the drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I had fun. It was fun to move around and find different lines and try to, the track was starting to dry and then it would go back a little wet. So like it was fun to just be creative and experiment and do everything you can to find wet but dry lines and speed, and that part was a lot of fun.
Do you think it's something that will work consistently at the short tracks?
I'm sure it would. Yeah, I'm sure it will continue to work. It's only going to get better, and I thought it raced fine under green and everything, and they're going to get better processes in place and grow and learn and be able to get more data, right? Like we don't have a lot of data as racing goes with that tire. So the more time we use it, the better Goodyear's going to even get more of a idea of what's capable or what they need to change going forward.
It seems to me like you're good at a lot of different kinds of tracks. When you unload good, you're pretty good all weekend long. Is there a certain sort of track that you like more than others?
No, I like the mile and a half probably the most, but honestly, I just, there's not a place I really just like dislike or feel uncomfortable at. So, yeah, I just have fun racing. So I feel like, I've made sure, or worked really hard, right, to not just be excited for the ones I'm good at or the ones I like, and really just try to be good at all of them, because it's still a race, and it's miserable when you show up and you don't run great, or you're just miserable walking in there because you're not going to run good and then you're already beat. So yeah, I've tried to just try and work and focus and make myself better for every track, and I feel like we've done a good job of that so far this year.
So if you like mile and a half intermediate type tracks, you got to be excited about this weekend at Nashville. What is the key to that track?
I mean, it's just so different. It's like a mile and a half, but it races like a short track. So I like it a lot. I won the truck race last year there, so I had a shot to win the Xfinity race there last year too, the same weekend. So it was a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. But it's just managing your speed while also trying to get the thing stopped and pointed, but not lose too much speed, or just try to balance racing it like a short track, but still trying to keep the mile and a half speeds in it.
So the last time I talked to you, was right after you got your driver's license, I asked you about signing it with your number on there. That ended up being like the most read story on our website for like 2 months. Like people love that. I found it interesting though that you're like seem to be okay with like giving little glimpses into your life and to you that maybe some other drivers don't, but it endorses you with fans. So why are you so able to be comfortable with sharing those things?
I don't know. I like to be funny and whatnot and tell funny stories. So, yeah, I just thought it was funny, and so I just tweeted it, and then everybody kind of laughed at it, wanted to see what it was real. Um, and I was hoping it would, because I was like, man, I just put this out there. I hope it comes, and they didn't like wipe it off or delete it or cut it out. And then I got my license, and sure enough, it's right there, 77. So I was pumped about that, and I thought it was really funny.
Is it hard to find that balance, or you just like whenever you see something you're like, oh, my fans will enjoy that? Like, how do you? Because I know you want some privacy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just, treat it like anything. Like if you were gonna, there's stories I don't tell my friends, right? That I don't think is, very funny or anything or enjoyable or could be entertaining to listen to. But like, if there's any time, that is funny or enjoyable, I'll do the same thing. But for fans or, people on Twitter or in social media and whatnot, I kind of do go with the same approach of, would I find this funny, or would I really like to know this story, or, would I find this enjoyable? And then, then I put it out there and have no worries of, I don't really care. A lot of my life's public anyways, because 90% of it's racing anyways. So, yeah, so I'm plenty comfortable.
For my final thought, we're going to talk about that fight between Aric Almirola and Bubba Wallace. First thing I'm going to do is I was actually at Nashville this weekend, so I'm going to play sound from Bubba and from Denny Hamlin when they were asked about it, and I'm going to talk about it on the other side.
They don't want me to get into details. To keep some people's images good. I think I said enough at Charlotte last year. So, all in all, life is good for me. That shit happened over a month ago, and a lot of good's come my way. And that's what I'm focused on. Focused on getting our stuff turned back around. And, off the racetrack, I'm focused on my wife and baby boy that's growing and growing. So that's all you can really ask for. So things are good for me off track. Not so much on track. That's what we're focused on right now. So there you go. That's the only question you'll get. So
I don't really have a comment on it because I wasn't there at the time. So I don't know what all transpired. It's all hearsay from my standpoint. And at 2311, we let Joe Gibbs Racing handle it, and they did what they saw fit. So I don't know all the details because I didn't want to get too much into the personal business, and still don't.
First of all, I've seen a lot of talk around the internet saying, well, Bubba deserved it. Bubba runs his mouth. But a couple of things. Aric works for Joe Gibbs Racing. Bubba works for 2311. They work together. Joe Gibbs Racing is the one that punished Aric Almirola. So his employer is the one that punished him. It didn't have anything to do with 2311 other than Bubba was in the room. So they investigated what happened. There were probably witnesses there from Joe Gibbs Racing since it allegedly happened at a competition meeting. And they are the ones that said that their driver was in the wrong and they punished him. And so it's really hard I know people would do it because that's the way people feel about Bubba, but it's hard to put the onus on Bubba. I can say whatever I want to people. Is it mean? Is it hurtful? Is it some form of verbal assault? Sure. But if you lay hands on me first, you're the one that's getting charged with assault. You're the one that's going to jail. So it's kind of the same theory. It doesn't really matter what Bubba said. Aric is the one deemed by Joe Gibbs Racing as the instigator, probably the one that helped laid hands first. So he's the one that did it. I like both drivers. I've never had any problem with either driver, so it's hard for me to really judge, who's right, who's wrong, who I might think was I don't like, or who could have done wrong in this, because I don't have a problem with either driver. I think both drivers have been great for the sport, great for growing diversity of the sport. Aric doing everything that he did from the Hispanic Cubano community. and Bubba doing what he did as the first African American driver to win a race since Wendell Scott. I think the sport needs both of them in it, so I'm not gonna take sides on this, but I think the only side you can take as far as who's at fault is what the investigation, what Joe Gibbs Racing decided, and that was Aric suspended indefinitely. Will probably be back for the next couple of weeks, but that's kind of what it is, what I think. I know it's kind of a wishy-washy stance, but I wasn't there, so I can't really have an opinion on it. I can only tell you what happened and kind of decipher between the lines based on the outcomes of it. Have a field day with this, Bubba haters, if you will, but that's kind of the, I guess, Switzerland view of this whole thing. Thanks for joining us on the Backstretch. See you next time.